Hello, welcome back, and if you're new to this channel, welcome. In this video, you're going to learn what is a visitation dream, and I'm also going to share my own direct experience with a visitation dream with you today. So stay tuned. So let's start this video by answering the question, what is a visitation dream? So everyone dreams every night, and each of your dreams is a message from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind, and your dreams generally relay the thoughts and attitudes that you have been experiencing over the day or two before the dream occurred. So a visitation dream can also be interpreted symbolically, similar to a regular nighttime dream, but there is a little difference. The difference between a regular dream and a visitation dream is that you will be visited by a departed loved one or ancestor, or someone who is important to you, and that person usually has a message to give to you. So I'm going to refer to Dr. Laurel Clark's book, Intuitive Dreaming. Laurel Clark was the president at the School of Metaphysics during the time that I was a student and a volunteer teacher there. And so, anyway, I learned a lot about dreams through reading her books and also listening to her lectures. So, Laurel Clark is a very respected teacher when it comes to interpreting dreams. And in her book, Intuitive Dreaming, it says here that most people experience a state of peace in visitation dreams, the sense that the departed loved one is doing well and wishes the dreamer well. In many cases, the entity who has died comes to reassure the dreamer that he or she is okay. And that is true, because before I ever had a visitation dream, I do remember my mom did, and she told me all about it the next day. While my grandma, which is my mom's mother, was in the hospital, and she was very worried, and it was kind of towards the end of her life, my mom told me about a dream that she had while my grandma was in the hospital. And the dream was that my grandpa, which is her dad, visited her in a dream because he was already passed away. But he had visited her in a dream, and she said that they didn't speak, but the color was so bright, it was like technicolor. And he had this wonderful peace about him that she just couldn't forget. He was very peaceful and just had a different, lighter energy about him. She said that his hair was blowing in the wind and the colors were just so bright. And she knew, upon telling me of this dream the next day, she knew that he came to her just to make her feel like everything was going to be okay. Because my mom was having a hard time going through this part of her life while her mother was in the hospital. So my grandpa came to my mom to give her a sense of peace, and to also it gave her a sense of believing that whenever my grandma's time was to come, that she would go and not be alone. Because my mom said she almost felt like it made her feel better knowing that he was out there somewhere just waiting for her to reunite. So, if anything, the visitation dream can definitely give you a state of peace about where your loved ones have gone, and just it helps to give you reassurance that even though their physical body is no longer here in the world, that their spirit does go on. So visitation dreams can actually be very helpful for those who are grieving. All right, so now I will share with you my visitation dream, which is also featured in this book, Intuitive Dreaming by Laurel Clark. As you can see, she even wrote to me in this book, "Dear Tracy, thank you for sharing your dream. Love, Dr. Laurel Clark. So I'm going to share that dream with you now. So let me give you a little bit of background. The story begins, it was after my grandmother had died, which I just told you about my mom having an inner level dream experience with my grandpa over this. So fast forward about a year after my grandmother's death, and I was experiencing just this time in my life where I was starting to question everything. I wanted to know my purpose, why we're here, and what am I supposed to be doing with my life. So in my visitation dream experience, I was, like I stated, going through a time in my life where I felt like I started to question everything. What is my purpose here? What is life all about? You know, why am I here? What am I doing? So one night, I had a dream, and in that dream, I was in a busy place, like a train station, and there were just people everywhere. And in the crowd, I spotted my grandmother. And as soon as I saw her, we like made eye contact. And so I was so excited to see her. And when we actually came together to communicate, it seemed as though we were kind of elevated, like on a stage or something. And the crowd around us became kind of blurry, um, you know, just kind of like background. And also in the background, I noticed suddenly as we were, together communicating, that the background behind us was almost like a big red backdrop. So it was just the color red, like a giant red curtain or flag was hanging right behind us. So anyway, I was so excited to see my grandma. I'm asking her, where have you been? What have you been doing? How are you? And her only response to me was, I'm trying to get the Lord on your side. And she said it. And as soon as the words were done being spoken, the message was delivered and the dream was over. I woke up. At the time, I didn't know what the dreams meant. So, of course, in my mind, if my grandma's trying to get the Lord on my side, does that mean that, goodness is now on my side? Like, I didn't understand what the message meant, so it actually kind of scared me. Like, what am I doing wrong in my life? It actually worried me. I literally went around telling all my friends and family about this dream because I couldn't shake it. It was like this dream shook me to the core because right at the time when I woke up, I just started crying so hard that I had to go into the bathroom to try not to wake my husband. And of course, he still woke up and came and asked me what was wrong. And so I told him about the dream, and I just couldn't stop. I was sobbing uncontrollably while telling him about this visitation dream that I had. So, in my experience at the time, instead of being grateful for that experience, I was actually fearful, but that was due to my own mind. Basically, I didn't know how to interpret the dream properly. Therefore, I had a fearful experience just due to ignorance or, like the lack of knowledge about dreams. So it was shortly after having that visitation dream that I ended up finding a book that I had stashed away in my desk a long time ago, my desk at work. I ended up reading the little book, and it was called Concentration. It was also by Laurel Clark, but before I met her. So I read the book, and in the back of the book, it talked about the School of Metaphysics and how they can teach you dream interpretation, among other skills. So that obviously caught my attention because it was shortly after having this visitation dream that was just boggling my mind that I went and found this book again and actually read it. So I believe that, finding that book at just the right time is what led me to the School of Metaphysics. So I went to the school and I learned about dream interpretation, and I was glad to find out that the Lord is on my side because, as I know now, the Lord would represent my own I am, my own highest self. So just to kind of give you the interpretation aspect of my visitation dream, I'm going to read from Dr. Laurel Clark's book, Intuitive Dreaming, and I'm going to give you the interpretation that she helped me with interpreting this visitation dream from my grandma. So let me share that with you now. All right, so in the book Intuitive Dreaming, after Laurel Clark tells the story of my dream, the actual dream itself, which I just told you in my own words, and just kind of a little bit about what happened after, then she says the interpretation. So let me share that with you here straight from the book. She wrote, "If it were my dream, I would receive it as a sign that my superconscious mind was trying to get through to me. I would heed the message from Grandma and act on the desire to align with the Lord, my own I am. The urgency to know God and align with superconsciousness was very strong at the time. Nothing else was more important, which is why the other people faded away and the dreamer could only see her grandma who was elevated. Tracy wanted to know why she woke up crying. I told her that if it were my dream, the emotion would be telling me to listen to superconscious mind and align with my divine plan. That was the most important thing. Walking a different path was causing pain. Tracy said that makes sense to her, and she was glad that the dream got her attention so she could make some important changes in her life." And of course, those important changes are I became interested in what my dreams were telling me, which led me to the School of Metaphysics, which put me on a spiritual path that I never knew I was going to be on before having this dream. So, in the case of my visitation dream, the divine message given to me was to align with God and to know God. And so I went and found the right organization to get me started. So that's kind of what put me on the path, the current path that I'm on. And even though I'm no longer a student or a volunteer teacher for the School of Metaphysics, I can definitely attribute my experiences there with putting me on the spiritual path that I'm on, and has led me in so many different ways that I never would have explored otherwise. So I'm so thankful for this dream experience that I have, that actually led me into changes in my life that were necessary at the time. And just kind of as an added bonus, that dream came when I was 28 years old. And so therefore it was my Saturn return time. And so it was a very pivotal time in my life to kind of set the pace for the next portion of my life. And so having all of this kind of come down to leading me on a spiritual path, I think that it all just happened perfectly. And I'm really just glad at the way it happened. So I hope that this story was entertaining to you a little bit and also helped to educate you some on dreams. I do plan in the future on making more dream videos to help you to interpret your own nighttime dreams using the symbology that is hidden in the images of your dreams. But for now, that is it for the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.